have to do is probably, move that, and it's gonna have to plug into this side here. Guess I should have put my water down, huh?
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm
Do you think it's the
surprised
battery?
it's-
Or do you think it's the unit?
Unplug this and replug it, because it's upside down.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe that was it.
Good evening.
Oh, does it advance?
You ready? Perfect. All right, this is the City Council Public Hearing Work Session for May the 15th. We'll go ahead and get this started, running a couple of minutes late, but the clerk will call the roll.
Mayor Brian Mock,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jimmy First,
Here.
Councilmember John Mesa, Councilmember Leslie Robson, Councilmember Paul Stovall, Councilmember Elmer Vythe.
Present.
All right, we will need to approve the agenda this evening.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All in favor? All right. That will take us down to, we have no announcements this evening, right? All right, that'll take us down to public hearings. First item on the agenda tonight is PZ 2025-1297, which is 3473 Claremont Road. I will read the rules of order for the public hearing and zoning matters first. I'm sorry, I should have done that first. The hearing shall be presided over by the mayor. After calling the hearing to order, the mayor shall request the parcels of property which are the subject of the zoning proposal be identified and read. Following such identification and reading, the development director's recommendation shall be presented. The mayor and the city council shall cause the director's written recommendation to be made part of the record. Proponents of each proposed zoning decision shall then be allowed a total of 10 minutes for presentation of data, evidence, and opinion concerning the zoning decision. If all 10 minutes are not used, the proponent's remaining time may be reserved for rebuttal. Opponents of each proposed zoning decision shall then be allowed a total of 10 minutes for presentation of data, evidence, and opinion concerning each zoning decision. The presentation times may not be reduced, but may be extended by a majority vote, provided they are expanded equally for proponents and opponents. Anyone wishing to speak must come to the microphone, give your name and address to the city clerk. Please do not speak unless you have the microphone and have been recognized. And with that, we'll move into 3473 Claremont Road.
Absolutely. Good evening, everybody. Mayor, Council, my name is John Maximuck. I'm the Director of the Planning and Development Department. And tonight I'll be presenting a number of cases for you tonight. The first one, as the Mayor pointed out, 3473 Claremont Road. This is a variance. And so when you're driving around the city and you see the blue signs, the blue and white signs, indicating a variance application and a public hearing, that's what this is about, and there's a couple like that tonight. The applicant here is Taqueria Los Reyes, the restaurant there, and the application is for 2 concurrent variances for the construction of a commercial dumpster in the front yard of its restaurant site. I'll walk you through this before I give you a recommendation. This is the site location, just south or below Plaza Fiesta, near the intersection of Claremont and Buford Highway. This site is notable because it has 2 front yards, because it has 2 frontages, Claremont and Buford Highway. As I pointed out, this is for a dumpster enclosure. In the end, staff is recommending that the dumpster be moved and enclosed, and this will require subsequently a reduction in the amount of required parking spaces. To give you a more local on-the-ground feel for the site, this is the frontage along Buford Highway, frontage along Skyland Drive, frontage along Claremont Road, location of the existing dumpster looking towards Claremont Road, and so it would be on the right-hand side. The existing parking lot, a location of proposed dumpster enclosure. This is the location of the applicant's proposed dumpster location in the center of the site next to the drive-in kiosk. And this is an aerial view of that proposed site. This is a schematic view of what the parking lot looks like with regard to where the dumpster might go in the center of the site. And it also shows two curb areas. This site is also notable because it has 4 openings for Beaufort and for Claremont total. And in our proposal, you'll see that we're proposing to alter one of those openings. This is a photo of an example of a proposed enclosure that the applicant seeks. Our recommendation, based on the UDO and Section 280-32, that gives us the criteria, or gives the council criteria for approving or not approving variances. Staff recommends approval not to place the commercial dumpster in the rear yard in a variance from Section 250-2A to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 23 to 18. Specifically, the enclosure shall be constructed with design and materials similar to and complementary with the existing primary structure on site, and the dumpster shall be placed at the south corner of the site near the intersection of Beaufort Highway and Skyland Drive. The dumpster shall be set back 30 feet from Beaufort Highway, and any additional parking and deficiencies created to accommodate installation of the dumpster enclosure are permitted without need for reapplication through the variance process. And this picture is clever, shows us the proposed location at the center near the queue for the kiosk, the drive-in kiosk, and it puts it away from the activity of the parking lot into a corner that staff proposes that we close an opening for. And keep in mind that normally business uses like this aren't allowed so many openings onto main streets. This would solve a problem by relocating the dumpster and closing it, and also cutting off one of the non-conforming openings onto the roadway. You see here also the property lines in blue outline. There's quite large generous right-of-ways there, both for Skyline and for Skyland and for Beaufort Highway. So that's why the site looks bigger than it actually is. More details on the recommended conditions of approval. The southernmost curb cut along Beaufort Highway shall be closed to accommodate the dumpster. A 30-foot landscape strip shall be installed between the dumpster and Beaufort Highway, and the applicant shall prepare a landscape plan that fully screens the view of the dumpster enclosure from the right-of-way year-round. Landscaping shall be selected from the plant species selection list for permanent buffers in 2.2 of our Unified Development Ordinance, and the final landscape plan shall be reviewed and approved by the Planning and Development Director. These, again, are the proposed recommendations of approval for your consideration, and we can discuss those later.
Thank you. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this item? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this item? All right. We'll move on down to the next item. Just to be clear, since we do have a full house and most folks are not with us, we give time for both speaking in favor and opposition. This does come back up later on in the agenda, and at that time, council may or may not have questions or comments to add to that. Council doesn't speak in this portion, but they will speak later on, so if you want to stick around. The next item is 2772 Northeast Expressway.
Absolutely. The applicant here, Mayor and Council, is Ike Dendy, and the proposed development is construction of a dumpster enclosure in front yard of a commercial property. There are 2 variances involved here, and we'll explain the situation with the presentation. This is the site location between Northeast Expressway and Johnson Road. If you're familiar with the area, this is the DeKalb convenience store and its parking lot and its dumpster. This is existing enclosure. Enclosure material will be concrete fencing and 8 feet tall. Dumpster to remain in its current position in the northwest corner of the property. This is a site plan showing where it will be in the lower left-hand corner. So if you're coming from St. Pius, you'd turn left into the property and the dumpster would be on the left. This is the proposed dumpster area that's slightly different. Subject property photos, as we usually show you, existing parking lot, frontage along Johnson Road, rear yards seen along Northeast Expressway, enclosure in the proposed location currently. Staff recommendation is based on the analysis of the application using the standards of 280 of the UDO, and staff recommends approval with conditions. And these are the proposed conditions. Staff recommends development shall be constructed in substantial conformity with the site plan and elevations received by the Planning and Development Department dated February 28th, with revisions are required by conditions of approval as reviewed and approved by the Planning and Development Director. Evergreen landscaping shall be added around the enclosure to fully screen it from view from the public right-of-way, and final landscaping design shall be reviewed and approved by the Planning and Development Department. Brick veneer complementary to the primary building facade shall be added onto the sides of the enclosure.
Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this item? Anyone in opposition? Very well, we'll move on down to 4789 Buford Highway. This is Napa Auto.
Mayor and Council, the applicant Advanced Systems, care of Kyle Kelly, requests one variance due to topography for a construction of a dumpster enclosure in the side yard of a commercial property. This site is notable because it crosses a zoning district line at its rear. The property in question, the area in question here is the lower center part of this gray box in the commercial part of the site. Here is a site plan that's been provided, and you can see specifically to the lower right where the proposed dumpster and enclosure would go, right there in the circle. Proposed enclosure. Photos provided, and more photos of the subject property to get familiar with it. Frontage along Buford Highway, side yard access, the existing dumpster on the right, and then the rear yard topographical limitations observed by staff that we find compelling for the variance. So as with others, based on the analysis, staff recommends approval with the criteria under Section 280. To install a commercial dumpster enclosure in that side yard, and the development shall be constructed in substantial conformity with the site plan and elevations received by the department dated February 18th, with revisions required by conditions of approval as reviewed and approved by the Planning and Development Director.
Anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this item? Come on up. You'll come on up to the microphone. Give your name and address to the city clerk, please.
It's Kyle Kelly. We're located at, brain fart. 4655. Oh my God.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day, trust me. We get it. It's after 6 already.
Office address. Well, now no one else should feel embarrassed about coming up here. Right? I can't believe I'm having that big brain fart. Yes, it's 6627 Commerce Parkway, Woodstock, Georgia. That's 30189. And I'm just speaking in favor of this because, like he said, there's nowhere else to physically move the dumpster. Just because of the topography of the map, we can't actually put the dumpster behind the property. And I also put in my proposal that if we needed to, because the facade of the building is actually a metal building, So I put in there to paint the dumpster enclosure if we needed to, just to match the building, to make it whatever needs to make the property look better.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of this item? Anyone in opposition? All right, very good. That'll take us down to the next item, which is 5880 Peachtree Road. This is Jim Ellis Cadillac.
All right, Mayor and Council, the applicant Pro Building Systems, care of Steve Ellis, over there at 5880 Peachtree Boulevard near Shelford. The proposed development is construction of a 202,400 square foot, three-story parking deck. This is a development of community impact. It's more than 50,000 square feet of development. It involves 9 concurrent variances and 2 waiver requests. So members of the public see an orange and white sign. This indicates that it's a development of community impact, and the community has decided that within the UDO, developments of community impact are projects that should be reviewed with different criteria under 280-24, and with a special review by a 7-member design review board panel in advance under 280-12. So I'm going to walk you through the review of the design review board and the staff, the applicant's requests, and then give you some recommended approval with conditions. First, about this case. The site location, as I mentioned, is in the back side of this triangle-shaped campus for Jim Ellis. It's Jim Ellis Cadillac between North Shalford Road and Peachtree Boulevard. You can see the project that came through originally in the lower right, and then the blue box behind it is the area where the proposed garage would be located. This was intended, I believe, to be built all at once, but it's now being built in phases. This is the frontage along Peachtree Boulevard we might be familiar with, and the existing streetscape along Peachtree Boulevard, frontage along North Shalford Road, existing zoning buffer, view from Forest Court, and now a review of the applicant's requests in order to construct this garage. The applicant requests 9 variances from Title II of the UDO. So these variances require a public hearing. They do come from the 200 section of the Unified Development Ordinance. First is a variance from Section 230A to allow an accessory structure to not subordinate to the primary structure in dimensional aspects. A variance from Section 239 to not substantially certify the parking structure, sustainably certify the parking structure. Pardon me. And then third, variance from Section 240-13 to not have a multi-story parking structure meet the architectural proportion and scale of building facades requirements. Fourth, a variance from Section 240-13 to not screen a multi-story parking structure with a liner building. 5, a variance from Section 240-13 to not have external openings of the multi-story parking structure screened with decorative elements or other similar screening fixtures. 6, variance from Section 240-13 to not have the facades of the multi-story parking structure conceal the stored automobile visible from any public way. And 7, a variance from Section 240-13 to not have the facade of the multi-story parking structure have the appearance of a horizontal storied building. And then 8, a variance from Section 240-13 to not have the roof level of the multi-story parking structure open to the sky and provide adequate shade cover for a minimum of 40% of the upper surface. And last of the variances, Section 240-13 to not have the multi-story parking structure constructed with a level base and with flat floor plates on every above ground level, or to have the appearance of horizontal floor plates on the outward-facing facade. The applicant requests 2 waivers from Title III, the 300 section of the Unified Development Ordinance. A waiver from Section 230-27 to not have the parking structure face or provide an entrance visible from a boulevard street, and second, a waiver from 230-3 to not publicly provide accessible open space. Here is a site plan with highlights of the recent building that was put in orange, and then the proposed area in gray and yellow behind it. This shows the site plan with a schematic showing some of the screening that's being proposed. Here are a generous number of elevation views from different angles: north elevation, the south elevation, east elevation, west elevation, and then street perspectives. Just gives you a drawing view per se about what it would look like from the side, like an elevation drawing. These are also a little harder to see on the screen, but if you're seeing a paper version, the photo on the left shows a vague image of a building in the woods per se, and the other one does the same thing. It shows the proposed structure protruding through the woods. It's meant to show what a view might look like. Here are more street perspectives. Here are more street perspectives. And this is a site plan from the 2020 application that built the front part, and more of those drawings that were submitted at that time. Here you have a proposed site plan that shows, again, more detail on the proposed site, the garage, and the open space. Details on the landscape plan that's required. The ground floor and level 1 floor plan, level 1 and 2 floor plan, elevation details, a rendering. This is a view from North Shelford and East Johnson Circle. Renderings, the deck entrance view, east elevation. This is a bird's eye view. And now I'm getting back to the Design Review Board findings. The Design Review Board recommended approval with the following conditions. The applicant shall work with the staff to provide an additional 1.3% open space in publicly available areas along North Shalford Road in Tract 1. The applicant provide an access easement to the northern parking deck entrance between Tract 1 and the combined Tracts 2 and 4. The applicant shall work with the landscape architect to specify trees suitable for heavy shade areas, specifically on the north and west sides of the building. And the applicant shall work with staff to explore ways to meet the intent of the architectural design standards of the Unified Development Ordinance at the north elevation. Lighting conditions from the previously approved application shall be met. And 6, the applicant shall provide at least one pedestrian pathway from the proposed garage to the primary structure. These pedestrian pathways do not need to be raised per the Unified Development Ordinance. Now, moving on to a staff recommendation. These are staff findings. These aren't the final findings, but these are mostly a look at our look at the variances and waivers given the criteria for granting waivers and variances. Staff finds that the variance from Section 239 to not sustain, we support approval of variance from Section 230-9 to not sustainably certify the parking structure, variance from Section 240-13 to not have a multi-story parking structure meet the architectural proportion and scale of building facades, and a variance from Section 240-13 to not screen a multi-story parking structure with a liner building. Support for a variance from Section 240-13 to not have the facade of the multi-story parking structure have the appearance of a horizontal storied building. Support for a variance from Section 240-13 to not have the roof level of the multi-story parking structure open to the sky and provide, adequate shade cover for a minimum of 40% of the upper surface, and support for a variance from section 240-13 to not have the multi-story parking structure constructed with a level base and with flat floor plates on every above-ground level, or to have the appearance of a horizontal floor plates on the outward-facing facade. Staff recommends support for the waiver from section 230-27 to not have the parking structure face or provide an entrance visible from a boulevard or street, and support for a waiver from 230-30 to not provide publicly accessible open space. Now, staff in turn does not find hardship for the following. So staff recommends denial of the following variance requests. A variance from section 230A to allow an accessory structure to not be subordinate to the primary structure and dimensional aspects. Variance from section 240 to not have external openings on the multi-story parking structure screened with decorative elements or other similar screening fixtures. A variance from section 240-13 to not have the facades of the multi-story parking structure conceal the stored automobile visible from any public right-of-way. Now, if you're following along, I've given you the proposed development and some idea of what this development is about, the variances and waivers that the applicant finds they need to get this done. I've also described the findings of the Design Review Board that met 2 months ago now to review this, and then the staff analysis of the waivers and the variances. At this time, should the council decide to go forward with this project, this is the combined staff recommendation with Design Review Board comments intermixed. If I may, staff recommends approval on the development shall be constructed in substantial conformity with the site plan and elevations received by the Planning and Development Department April 3rd, 2025, with revisions required by the conditions of approval as reviewed and approved by the Planning and Development Director. And the applicant shall work with a landscape architect and the city arborist to specify trees suitable for heavy shade areas, specifically on the north and west sides of that garage building. Lighting for the parking deck shall be dark sky compliant and shall not be included towards the rear of the property. Lights on the structured levels of the parking deck shall not be visible from the neighboring properties between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Continuing with conditions of approval. Four, the applicant shall provide an access easement to the northern parking deck entrance between tract 1 and the combined tracts 2 and 4. And the applicant shall provide at least one pedestrian pathway from the proposed garage to the primary structure. And these pedestrian paths do not need to be raised per the Unified Development Ordinance as we normally would. The parking structure shall achieve 5 points of sustainable measures listed under section 230-9. And the external openings of the parking structure shall be screened with decorative elements or similar screening features. These screening elements shall also screen the stored automobiles from all public rights of way. Next, a minimum of 41% of the surface of the parking structure shall be seal coated with a coating that meets or exceeds an SRI value of 90. Ownership shall maintain the coating. The development shall provide publicly accessible open space on or within close proximity to the subject development, with final design reviewed and approved by the Planning and Development Director. And then the applicant shall install streetscapes along North Shalford Road as shown on the site plan dated April 3rd, 2025. Next, the applicant shall dedicate land owned by JBE Realty Holdings, LLP, to the city/GDOT for the proposed future intersection improvements at Peachtree Boulevard and North Shalford Road as shown on the site plan received April 3rd, 2025. The surface of the deck shall be finished with a broom finish or equivalent to eliminate tire screeching. The facility shall be used exclusively for vehicle dealership storage with no mechanical or body work performed within the parking deck. As I mentioned before, there was approval by this council in 2020 under this case listed for the primary structure. Staff recommends approving these previously approved variances and waivers and conditions of approval should you go forward with this one. And these are listed here. And that concludes the staff presentation for this application, Mr. Mayor.
Good. All right, anyone wishing to speak in favor of this item? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Ellis Hodges, address 5885 Peachtree Boulevard, Atlanta, Georgia 30341. First, thank you, Mayor and Council, for hearing us tonight. As a longtime business owner in the area since 1971, we have always strived to be a good steward with the city, with the residents, and fellow business owners in the area by supporting schools and initiatives within the city, and we are also a part of the Chamblee Community Improvement District, and have also put in close to $1 million to those endeavors, and are going to continue to participate with that in all the projects that the CID has been working on. Excuse me, this project was previously approved in 2018 and 2020, but due to economic reasons, shifts in business, shifts in priorities that we needed to cover, and also shifts of COVID inventory, we decided to pull back on that piece of the project that was approved at that time. However, due to ever-changing business economies and inventories, as it always is, and all businesses experience, this project has resurfaced as a need. The main reason is it will help us improve our client interactions. You know, currently this facility utilizes our storage area that's over behind the Chamblee MARTA station. So it, adds to time and client experience to bring back cars to test drive and whatnot. But a significant improvement is it will cut down on what is approximately right now 100 trips a day that particular facility is making to our storage area over by the MARTA station to go get cars for delivery, cars for test drives, and then we have to return those cars and whatnot. So it will be a significant improvement to the traffic count that we are incurring right now on the city streets between the two facilities. It will hugely cut that need. It also will allow us to actually hugely improve the aesthetic quality of that property right now. Currently, it is a disorganized parking lot. We don't even love how it looks, and it's ours. This parking deck will put a nice, finished-looking structure in. Height-wise, it's no taller than what currently is the Cadillac building. Being as part of the parking deck is actually below ground, so not all levels are above ground. It actually, from the surface, is not as tall as it sounds on paper. And we'll refer to some of those visuals later where only part of the deck is above ground and visual. And also we're gonna have the additional 50-foot buffer between properties, and all the landscaping that John has kindly talked about will be between the parking deck and the residents that are behind us, and also the improvements along North Shallowford. It'll just give a much cleaner, finished look to that property for everyone behind it, beside it, and driving and looking at it. And yes, all the nighttime lighting and things like that to cut down. It's going to cut down on noise between our building and the residents behind us, because that will actually provide a sound buffer from any noise being from the dealerships of starting of cars and things like that. So just want to thank you for your time, and I believe Steve is going to speak a little more on the variances. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Steve Ellis with Pro Building Systems. We're located at 3678 North Peachtree Road, Chamblee, Georgia. Do you guys have the slides accessible by chance? Good evening. So thank you for the time. Thanks, Stacy. Thanks, John, and your staff for the comprehensive description of the project here. As everyone mentioned, this project was brought before Mayor and Council in 2018, was approved with the majority of the variances that were kind of a combination of what was approved in 2020 and what we're asking for today. 9 variances and 2 waivers for a project of this scale in an automotive corridor, I think is a record for us as far as the least quantity of variances that we've had to request previously. All of these variances were approved previously and have been approved on other automotive projects as well. So I just want to kind of hit some of the high notes of the positives of this particular project. This is commercially developed property, commercially zoned property that allows for a 60-foot high building maximum, and it requires a 40-foot zoning buffer. We have, as Stacy mentioned, we've engaged this parking structure in the ground, and we're increasing the buffer by 50%. So we're proposing a 60-foot buffer. We're preserving the existing 40-foot buffer, and then increasing it by another 20 feet and enhancing it. And we're in agreement with staff's condition to work with the city, with the landscape architect and the city arborist to make sure that that buffer is cleaned up, is well landscaped, and is concealing to the best of our ability the property to the north, which is the residential properties. That back wall along, can't see my screen, but the northern wall of this parking structure that faces the residentially zoned properties will be completely solid. It has some architectural features we'll look at here shortly, but there's no openings. It's completely screened 100%, so there'll be no light bleed, no noise, all of those things you won't be able to see into the deck. The variances that we have requested, staff recommended approval of the majority of them. I just want to talk about a couple. So variance number 2, from the variance about sustainably certifying the parking structure, we were able to determine that we could meet the Chamblee sustainability metrics. The majority of those are about preserving the landscaping that's there and the old growth trees. Variance number 6, about the multi-story parking structure not to be level. We thought here in this application, being against the residential property, you can see here in the second elevation from the top that we are sloping the deck with the ground to keep the context of the height as low as possible in relation to the residential property. The 3 variances that staff recommended denial of, just want to kind of hit those real quick. One was to not allow an accessory structure to not be subordinate to the primary structure. That the hardship, in our opinion, is it's a parking structure. It's going to be larger than the building, and it's not attached. It's the only reason that we actually need to request that variance. Variance number 5, about the external openings on a multi-story deck. What we have done is there are the openings to the north, which faces the residential properties, as well as the openings to the west, which face North Shallowford, are all screened appropriately per the zoning ordinance. It's just the openings that are facing internal of our property, and all of those openings are concealed with full height, 42-inch high solid spandrels, so there's no cable rail or anything, so you won't really be able to see the cars, like the other parking structures that we've constructed in Chamblee. And then the facades of the multi-story parking deck do not conceal automobiles visible from the public right-of-way. The majority of the cars would be concealed, as again, the height of the solid wall is 42 inches high, and they're pretty far back from the right-of-way. In closing, and also we're in agreement. We've worked diligently with staff, with John and his staff, on the staff conditions. We're in agreement with all of the staff conditions. The one we would like some consideration on is number 7, and that's the external openings of the parking structure shall be screened with decorative elements of similar screening features. That one we think we have met the spirit of the ordinance in the sense that again, the northern and the western facades are completely screened from the public right-of-way and from the adjacent properties. And in closing, we believe this parking structure will provide better visual and audible screening to the residential property in the rear, much better aesthetic to North Shallowford Road. It allows them to store the vehicles that are needed to operate the business here without running back and forth across town. And at the end of the day, it provides the required open space, again, enhanced landscaping. We'll keep all the light internal to the parking deck, and everything will be dark sky compliant. So we appreciate your consideration, and we'll save any time that we have left for any kind of rebuttal if we need to. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Jimmy, how much time do we got left?
1 minute and 13 seconds.
Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of this item? We have about 1 more minute. All right, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? That's fine.
Forest Hill is the bottom elevation. Those are all completely, they're architecturally treated to appear as openings, but it's 100% solid. There's no openings. And facing North Shallowford is the top elevation, which is also this rendering here. That's facing North Shallowford. That's kind of a bird's eye showing, and that's scalable to the best of our ability. That is the real scale of the trees that are there, and the scale of the parking deck that's there from that section. Does that answer your question?
All right, anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Trudy Jones-Dean. I'm at 2247 North Shallowford Road, and I prepared a statement, if I may read. I'm here tonight to voice my strong opposition to this development of community impact proposal. As a homeowner and taxpayer, I expect that the rules laid out in the city's Unified Development Ordinance, the UDO, are followed, not waved away. This proposal is asking for 9 variances and 2 waivers, which amounts to a complete dismantling of the protections the UDO is supposed to provide the residents. These protections exist for a reason: to ensure that developments respect neighborhood character, protect property values, and promote good urban design. One of the most troubling requests is a variance to allow the parking structure at over 200,000 square feet to be larger than the primary dealership building. That's not a minor design tweak. It's a fundamental violation of purpose of an accessory structure under Section 230-8A1 of the UDO. An accessory structure is supposed to be subordinate. Here, it's not. It dominates the site. This isn't a dealership enhancement. It's a vehicle warehouse masquerading as support space. The applicant also wants to waive architectural screening requirements, forego sustainability certification, eliminate decorative elements, and expose parked inventory to public view. That's not just unattractive, it's legally inconsistent with the design standards spelled out in sections 239 and 240-13. These are not burdensome rules, they're the city's blueprint for balanced, thoughtful development. Allowing this many exceptions undermines the integrity of the code and the community trust. Additionally, the developer is asking to avoid creating any publicly accessible open space despite being located in a designated character area intended to be pedestrian and bike-friendly. The fact that the proposed structure will provide no public benefit, offer no walkability, and exist purely for private inventory storage should disqualify it from such massive exemption requests. Even the Design Review Board had concerns, issuing only conditional approvals and emphasizing the need for screening, shade trees, and reduced visibility from neighboring homes. These are signs that the project does not meet the bar for thoughtful, community-compatible development. Let's be clear, approving this sets a precedent. If one business can get 9 variances and 2 waivers to construct a warehouse-sized structure directly behind residential homes, the door is wide open for future developers to erode residential buffers across Chamblee. On behalf of my neighbors, I urge you to enforce the intent of the UDO, deny the most harmful variances, especially the request to allow an oversized accessory structure, and ensure that any development in this corridor meets both the letter and the spirit of the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dean. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Good evening. Donna Wolf, 3981 Forest Court. My property was in the pictures. My mother's been at this property for 72 years. Our community there, where the structure is proposed, I thought we had resolved all that 5 years ago, but we find ourselves here again tonight. I'm glad Ms. Stacy brought up her impact to the community. I think that's very important. But as we all know, we've all heard, charity begins at home. Let me tell you about living behind Jim Ellis. The constant horn blowing from sunup to sundown. The workers performing paint jobs at the property line behind my mom's house. The smell of fumes, the banging, the clanging. At one point, complaining people and their employees were using the buffer zone as a urinal. Often met when we go over to speak to the dealership with not so friendly recognition of our concerns. So I kind of look at the comment Ms. Stacy made about the contributions that they've made to Chamblee and the community. And I asked the Ellis organization to consider what contributions our neighborhood has made to their business. When all the GM workers who lived there at one point went and bought cars from Mr. Ellis, when we put money into the Ellis organization. I can remember when Hicks Green Buick was there. The builders there used to bring, when they were clearing that land, they brought tricycles and old Ford parts and left them on my mom's porch because it was important to them that we had those things, many of which still are in her shed in the backyard. To the Ellis Corporation, this is a parking deck. To the folks who live on Forest Court, this is our home. This is where we get our sun through the trees. And if you really want to know how well they take care of the buffer zone, I would encourage you to go take a look at that. It is absolutely, to Ms. Stacy's point, pitiful, and it's really shameful. So can we trust this organization to do the things that they have proposed? When the simplest things, like reducing noise, keeping the buffer zone clean and beautiful and maintained. The little things, no. The big things, can they be trusted? Based on my experience with the Ellis Corporation, I say no. And I adamantly oppose this development.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Pam Golder, and I have lived at 3963 Forest Court since 1977, 48 years. My home is one of the 5 homes most to be affected by the parking deck. I have sent to each of the council and Mayor Mock an email as to all my objections to having this parking deck built just 60 feet from my backyard. The families on Forest Court have had to live with Jim Ellis car dealerships' bad neighbor dealings, horns honking, intercom warnings, compressors cranking up every 15 minutes since the 1990s, and now another deck request. And I am really confused as to why we are even here again, as we and the council voted a big no the last time. So no, I don't want this 722 parking space, 3-story parking deck in my backyard. Well, I will never see the sunrise in the morning, never catch a cool breeze coming through the woods, or see a full moon rising up again. All I will wake up to and go to bed to is a cement wall for the rest of my life. So to the City of Chamblee Council and Mayor, where I have lived in Chamblee since 1962, grew up, raised my 2 sons, please vote no again to this parking deck. With that, I will leave you all with one thought. You can't lose community to corporate greed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Amy Schwab, and I have lived at 3969 Forest Court in Chamblee for about 25 years. I oppose the proposed multi-level parking deck, which would basically be built in my backyard. The traffic situation would be horrendous, the noise untenable, and visually it would be an eyesore, a cement wall which would block out the morning light. Furthermore, it would significantly decrease the value of my property. It is my understanding, as has been said already, that this proposal was denied when it was raised in the past. And I wonder why the applicant thinks the circumstances have now changed in his or her favor. Please reject this proposal, thereby saving our neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, anyone else wishing to speak? Come on.
Mayor, council, thank you for the time. I'm not as well-spoken as my neighbors here. I just want to let you know I'm strongly opposed to this.
What's your name, sir?
Michael Cicchetti, 3935 Forest Court. Also, going to be losing Sunrise to this big concrete structure on Forest Court. And I don't have much to add, much more to say. I've emailed you more of my thoughts, but just want you to imagine the size of this. I mean, this is going to be the first thing the majority of people coming off of 285 into Chamblee are going to see, let alone us. I mean, we're not going to have a sunrise in the morning. It's going to affect our property values. It's really the noise is the main thing. I mean, already, and I don't complain, you know, I can appreciate they have a business. I like to mind my own business, but this is just too much. Like, I mean, the horns are going off. Like, can they not put in a system, a map with numbers, like, do more? It's just, it's already been rough having to listen to this, and it's just, I mean, multiply that by 4, 5, I mean, 700 spaces, like, it's just, yeah, going to be really painful. So thank you for considering this. I love Chamblee. I've only been here 7 years. They've been here. It's a little diamond in the rough, Forest Court. It's like the oldest neighborhood.
Mr.
They've
Mayor,
got
we're
a
at
long
10
history.
minutes.
Thank you. Council would like to extend time on this.
Mr. Mayor, motion to extend for 5 minutes.
Everyone okay with that? Second. All right. Okay,
Just
go
one last thing to say, like Chamblee's awesome. Love it here. You know, love all the architecture. Like, if they're going to do this, why not do it by the book? Why do we make exceptions for them? Like, can they not do it sustainably? You know, do it the way that others have decided should be law that they build it? I mean, it seems like a structure like this, they have the money to be able to afford to do this, and to not have us have to come out and fight. Like last month I was here, my children were sick. This has been quite a pain. So please just, you know, humbly ask if they want to build this, just do it by the book. Is that too much to ask for? I don't bother them. I don't do noise complaints. I mind my own business, but just kind of ask for that small favor. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition?
Gabrielle McGrath, and I'm the street behind Forest Court, 3789 Summer Rose Drive. And I wanted to share a picture of the sunrise that I get in the winter. May I approach and show you all how beautiful it is?
We can you see it?
I can see it.
Yeah, I think we can
I
see
mean,
it.
it's gorgeous, and I enjoy it every winter day, and that'll be gone. So I know I'm not guaranteed a sunrise but I've been there for 17, 18 years, and I want to retire there, and I would love that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this? Anyone? Come on up.
Mitchell. Whoops, I just lost my glasses. I'm at 3952 Forest Court. I've been there for a short period of time, nowhere near as long as these other people. But a lot has already been said, but yesterday as I drove 85 north on Jimmy Carter, I noticed a big Jim Ellis billboard on the right. And it said, "We have 5,000 cars in stock." All of a sudden I said, wow. They have 5,000 cars in stock, and they need 5,700. And to do that, they need to take homeowners' backyards, their sunrises away, their peace and quiet, so they can have 700 more spaces. I don't know about you, but that doesn't seem fair. Homeowners on Forest Court have one home. One home to go home to, one place to find peace and quiet, and they have 5,000 cars in stock. Where does it end? How many cars do you need? How many parking spaces do you need? Sounds to me like they got way too many cars. They wouldn't need so many parking spaces. So the other thing that you'll observe on Forest Court is car alarms. They use key fobs to find cars. Boop, 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 alarms constantly going off. You go out in the morning to have your coffee, sit, listen to the birds by the bird feeder. Instead, you hear cars beeping constantly all day. When that's over with and it's nighttime, if there's movement on the parking lot behind Jim Ellis parking lot, you'll hear a female voice warning people of movement on the property. And it comes on and it plays over and over again. I've had visitors at my home and say, "What is that? What is that? Where's that coming from?" Oh, it's just the car dealerships. I've also had people at my house say, "What is that smell?" It's the car fumes, it's the paint fumes. You can almost taste them in the air. You have to go inside. The test driving of cars that they talk about, I'm assuming 700 more parking spaces are going to bring that many more cars for test drives. Who decide to come down Forest Court because it's a dead-end street to turn around and there's constant traffic. You would think, nice little dead-end street. Nope, not so much. So I would say, Jim Ellis, be a good neighbor. Don't take away people's backyard for 700 more cars. City Council, be good council members. Protect the homeowners from 700 more cars. Remember, they have 5,000 cars.
Mr. Mayor, we're at time.
Thank you.
Residents have one home.
Thank you. All right. Let me just ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone? Okay, all right, we're good. We wanted to make sure we give everybody an opportunity. All right, yep. We owe the applicant 6 minutes back if you had any follow-up you wanted to do to any of these concerns, or answer any questions that they had.
Just a couple of comments on some of the variance items. We have agreed to the planning board's recommendations of public space. I think there's some confusion on that. We have agreed to that recommendation. It is going to be built sustainably. There was a comment about we aren't going to build it sustainably. That is an agreement. This project was previously approved in 2018 and 2020. It was never a denied project originally. The horns, that is literally something I will address tomorrow. I'm not saying no one's ever gone to the store and tried to address it, but no one has ever contacted myself or my brother about that. This was something we didn't know. We've never had a contact. It will be addressed tomorrow. That was just something we've never had contact on before, so that is an easily addressed problem. But to that, being as the back of the deck will be fully closed, having the parking deck there will actually reduce noise from the store and cars to your properties, simply because there's a structure and solid wall between you and us. So it actually would give a noise reduction. Sunrise comments. Love sunrises. The parking deck structure is going to be lower than the already current tree line. I think we showed that in one of the slides. So sunrises should not be affected because it's significantly lower than the existing tree line that already exists. So I don't think that sunrises should be significantly impacted there for that quality of life. On that, the voice I think that you're hearing is our security system that is on at night, and when it detects people who should not be on our properties. As you may know, we have to secure our properties at night, and if it detects movement of a person, it does have a voiceover and asks that person to leave the property. If they don't, they then contact our physical Chamblee PD security to address it. So, because we don't have an intercom system that we could even use during the day, there's not one on the property, so I think that's the voice you're hearing is just our security system at night. And I can check into some volume controls on that, but that's what that voice is someone, they get a warning to leave the property. If they don't, we send security over. So, are there any questions that I might can answer?
If so, those will come up later, Stacey.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
you.
All right, was there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item?
One thing about we didn't discuss, that this was previously negotiated with the two, there's two entrances currently on North Shallowford Road. In 2018, when we worked through this with you guys, we were closing, and this, still the same way in this proposal, closing the westernmost entrance completely and altering the entrance closest to Peachtree Boulevard to be full access into the site, but right out only. That eliminates the ability for anyone to take a left out of the property and go down North Shallowford toward Forest Court. That was something that we had all agreed to previously. And the open space, we agreed to the condition that staff had placed, and we would work with John and his staff and create some open space on the northwestern corner of the property. There's the gas line easement there, it can't be built or developed in any kind of way, that we would develop that as a public amenity, and we're adding some streetscape and sidewalk there as well. So we're open to doing that. We would work with staff and council to make sure that everybody was amenable to that open space.
Okay. All right, again, this will come up a little bit later in the agenda for council comments. We'll move down to the next item on the agenda. This is 3477 Chamblee Dunwoody. This is Railway 3477.
Mayor and Council, the next case is 3477 Chamblee Dunwoody Way. The applicant owner is Station 777 LLC. The request is for 2 variances and 3 waiver requests in order to renovate an existing office building into a restaurant with outdoor seating. I'm going to go ahead and tell you about this site and this proposal, and then explain the applicant's requests and the staff recommendation for the 2 variances and the 3 waivers. This site is located just south of the Bexley Apartments, formerly known as the Lumen Apartments. And there's a driveway entrance to the parking for the Bexley Apartments that's immediately adjacent to the site. Site's in blue here at the center. These are subject property views, frontage along Chamblee Dunwoody Way, and then view of the adjacent sidewalk from the Bexley Apartments, streetscape that was put in with the Lumen project. Here you have left side adjacent to Bexley Apartments, a view of the site, and then another close-in view, the rear room to be renovated to increase ceiling height for food prep for the restaurant. The left side adjacent to Bexley Apartments, right side adjacent to Bexley. The image on the left is the right side of the subject property looking at the accessory structure. And then the right photo there is a view of the rear yard and adjacent fenced-off surface parking. Here you have a view of the accessory structure from the surface parking lot on the left, and then a view of the existing front yard and driveway with neighbors across the street. So in order to carry out this proposal, the applicant requires the two variances: to place a commercial dumpster in the side yard less than 5 feet from the side property line, and then a variance from section 258-2 to reduce the required minimum parking from 18 spaces to 0 spaces. Next, there's a waiver from section 230-26 to reduce the landscape zone from 5 feet to 0 feet, a waiver from section 230-26 to not locate trees in the landscape zone 40 feet on center, and a waiver from section 230-26 to not locate pedestrian lights between every other street tree in the landscape zone 80 feet on center. The applicant had some difficult choices to make in order to have a curb cut on the left side, and this affected that first waiver, the landscape zone. For the tree and the light waivers, the applicant does propose having one tree located in area adjacent to on-street parking and one pedestrian light. Not exactly per the UDO, but trying to meet the intent of the UDO given the site constraints. Here's a site plan showing the existing site with the primary structure at the center of the red box and the two-story accessory structure at the far right corner. Here's a proposed demolition plan that was included in the record set of plans. The proposed site plan showing improvements. You'll see changes to the footprint for the existing structure and changes to the front yard to accommodate diners who would be sitting outside. You also see at the bottom right of this image here the 2 parking spaces on street that have been proposed to help offset the variance that's being requested. Here's an interior floor plan. Here are elevations, the front elevation and the right elevation, left elevation, rear elevation. And here you have renderings of what the subject property might look like given approval, should the council approve it, and the project would go forward. Here's another view of it from a different angle. So based on the analysis of the application using the standards in Section 280, as I mentioned before, staff recommends approval of the variances and waivers with conditions. And staff suggests that a commercial dumpster could be placed in the side yard less than 5 feet. We could reduce the minimum parking from 18 to 0, and a waiver to reduce the landscape zone from 5 to 0. And a waiver to not locate trees in the landscape zone 40 feet on center, and a waiver from section 230-26 to not locate pedestrian lights between every other street tree in the landscape zone 80 feet on center. Staff recommends the following conditions to mitigate those approvals. First, the development shall be constructed in substantial conformity with the site plan and elevations received by the department on April 14th, with the revisions required by the conditions of approval as reviewed and approved by the Planning and Development Director. Next, the applicant shall seek a shared parking agreement or shared parking agreements for the provision of 2 parking spaces as a condition of approval. Any and all parking agreements shall be fully executed and submitted to the Planning and Development Department for review prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy or completion. And parking agreements shall meet the requirements of UDO Section 250-3 that spell out shared parking agreements. Next, the applicant shall install a minimum of 3 bicycle parking spaces, given the proximity to the rail trail, and the dumpster enclosure shall be constructed with a design and material similar to and or complementary with the existing primary structure as approved by the director. And then last, the supplemental zone shall not include outdoor seating for diners. The space within the supplemental may be programmed to include lounging space, lawn games, fire pits, and or other design as approved by the Planning and Development Director. And this fifth proposed condition has to do with some of the seating that you see here. There would be less seating in front of the building should this condition be applied. That's the presentation.
All right. Is there anyone here wishing to speak in favor of this item?
Mayor, City Council. My name is Vladimir Onisko, 3477 Chamblee Donwood Way. I've been a small business owner for over 20 years. We have just two small restaurants. One is located in similar neighborhood like yours. This is in Oakhurst, which is a little bit outskirts of Decatur. And we love being part of the community, the neighborhood, and just like how people welcome you and make you feel. And the reason is like my friend moved here like right before COVID, and I first time stumbled upon Chamblee, and I was like, oh my God, this is an amazing area. I love from restaurants, just going out, like how you guys make open container, like all the businesses, like small businesses, not big businesses. It's very welcoming. My partners and I, like, we would love to be part of your community. We met with like city planning. They were, by the way, amazing to work with. And two different architects, by the way. We tried to like make even the parking work, but that's just with the small space and the way it is, it's just no way to make it happen. And we were able to prove the building was built before 1974, therefore it was like grandfathered in, and we're trying to preserve also all architecture, but because of some requirements with the ceiling height and stuff, we do have to make some changes as well. But for the most part, we're gonna leave the building the way it is. We do plan to continue the sidewalk and the streetscape and all the design, how the neighbors next door started it. So those are the reasons for we asking for those variances, waivers as well. It's not just because something we created as well, but it's just like we're just trying to continue what they started, and that's the way it's just gonna have to happen. And my wife's gonna speak on behalf of like a landlord next door, Wesley Keller-Knapp. He wrote us a letter of recommendation. He wanted to be here, but unfortunately it's his birthday, so he said sorry, but I know, that's what I told him. But we thank you for your time and your consideration, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can whenever they arise. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item?
So I'm speaking on behalf of Wesley Knapp. I also actually work at Keller Knapp, and I'm the reason they got roped into this, so it only is fitting. So Wesley said, I am the owner next door to 3477 Chamblee Dunwoody Way, and he is the owner at Keller Knapp Realty. I apologize for not being able to attend because it's my birthday, but I wanted to write on behalf of these variances. Please note I am in complete support of all variances. I have known the applicant for nearly a decade and love him as a person. He really did say this, by the way. I'll show you the letter. I love him as a person, a business owner, and as a community-minded person. There is no doubt that having a restaurant in that location will add so many benefits to the fabric of the community that has already been created within the city of Chamblee. Thank you for including my recommendation in your meeting. Sincerely, Wesley.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Come on up.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Neil Mejia. I'm part of the group 3477 Chamblee Way. Wanted just to present ourselves here tonight to everybody, so get to know our faces. We come with full intent of opening a business that will be in compliance with all of the rules and regulations that are being proposed by the city of Chamblee. We have been together 20 years as friends, family, and business. So you can trust that we have good intentions, and everything that we do, we try to do very mindful. Hence why we have been steadily grow. We try to choose properly where we want to grow and how we want to grow. And I feel like Chamblee is proper for us right now because we're at the point where we want to maintain the community. The property is located right next to a big parking space that residentially wise, I don't think it will be fitting. So I think a business will be most appropriate for that location. Unfortunately, the location being with the limitations of the property, we're tied our hands. So the fate is up to you guys. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this item? Anyone in opposition? All right, seeing none, we'll move on down. We have one appeal this evening of administrative decision. I will read the rules of order quickly on that. The administrative appeal shall be presided over by the mayor. After calling the appeal to order, the mayor shall request the appeal be identified and read. The aggrieved party shall then be allowed a total of 10 minutes for presentation of data, evidence, and opinion concerning the order, requirement, and decision or determination. If all 10 minutes are not used, the aggrieved party's time may be reserved for use in rebuttal. The acting party and those in opposition to the appeal shall then be allowed a total of 10 minutes for presentation of data, evidence, and opinion concerning the order, requirement, decision, or determination. The presentation times may not be reduced, but may be extended by majority vote of mayor and council, provided they're expanded equally for the aggrieved party and the acting party. Following the consideration of all testimony, documentation of evidence, and matters of record, the mayor and city council shall make the determination on each appeal. The mayor and council shall decide the appeal within a reasonable time, but in no event more than 60 days from the date of filing of the appeal. The mayor and city council shall reverse, defer, affirm, or modify any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by the city manager, development director, or other authorized city official, and to that end shall have the powers of administrative official from whom the appeal was taken. The appeal shall be sustained or the decision below modified only upon the express finding by the mayor and city council that authorized the city official's action was based on an erroneous finding of the material of fact, or that said official's action was arbitrary. And with that, we will move into the appeal for 2080 Claremont Road, 2342 Woodacres.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the background and the legal basis for the appeal. The City of Chamblee and UDO Section 280-43 does allow for anyone, any person or entity aggrieved by an administrative decision to appeal that decision. And so staff finds that this appeal is rightly before us, and I want to give you some background information and the key central finding for this case. In June 2024, the property owner submitted an application for a building permit for a single-family structure at 2342 Woodacres Road. The application was suspended by the city in September 2024 because the department identified the need for a final plat. The applicant had recorded the lot with DeKalb County, but the city, subsequent to submission of a building permit, found that a final plat was required. A final plat was submitted, and upon review of the final plat, the department provided an official response to the applicant. On 3/25/25, the department provided an interpretation to the applicant for this property, and the interpretation was as follows, and I'll read for the record. Staff reviewed the application for the final plat and the section of the Unified Development Ordinance that the lot subdivision from 2342 Woodacre Road is not meeting Section 300-24D, requiring subdivided plats to abut a public street, and from Section 230-2A to have a safe and convenient access for servicing, fire protection, and required off-street parking. The currently closed right-of-way from Woodacre Road does not meet the definition of a public street because it does not afford vehicle access to Track 2, that is 2080 Claremont Terrace, and Track 2 does not appear to otherwise meet the requirements for development because it does not have a safe and convenient access for servicing, fire protection, and required off-street parking. And this means that the application for the final plat cannot move forward and had been denied and has been denied. And that is the staff report for this appeal.
Thank you, John. All right, is the aggrieved party here this evening? Okay. Do you want to come on up and present your case?
Good evening, everybody. Just wanted to correct
Your
what
your
John-
name, I'm sorry, your name?
My name is Nichelle Bell. I'm the applicant for the building permit
Okay.
at 2080 Claremont Terrace. I live at 126 Belmont Drive, Atlanta, 30311.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna just correct what John said. I applied for this permit in November of 2023. Okay, so we had gone through the building permit process, and our building permit was approved until we get notice that we needed to do a final plat. But I'm saying they gave us no evidence that these properties had been consolidated. This 2080 Claremont Terrace has been a legal lot, buildable lot, since 1959. Okay? The owner bought it in 1978, and it has been a separate lot ever since. There is no, these properties have not been combined in any way. There is no legal basis and no legal documents that show that these two properties had been combined. And Wood Acres is a public road. It has sewer, it has utilities, it's not paved all the way, but it has been used for egress since 1959. And so we're saying that there was no reason for us to be required to give a final plat, because the right-of-way was, and you cannot legally combine something that has a right-of-way. And Wood Acres is a right-of-way. The DeKalb County has not abandoned it as a public road, and so it remains to this day. Access to that road is being used by those that are in the area. And so we believe that this is not even necessary. They have no evidence that this has been combined. And what I was told when I talked to DeKalb County is that there was a process back in the day when people wanted one bill, one tax bill, and they said to just combine these. Well, there was no legal document that combined these two lots. He wanted it for tax purposes. He wanted it on one bill. And so for them to approve our lot and give us a condition of having to apply for an encroachment, you only apply for an encroachment permit on a public road. So our building permit has been approved, and it had been approved up into a year. And so for us to be put through these kind of changes at this time, I think is unfair. And that's all I have to say.
All right, is there anyone else here wishing to speak on this? All right. So, John, I believe, are you the acting party? Did you have any other comments to make on this? I don't. Okay, all right. All right, that will take us on down then to the approval of the minutes. Did anybody see anything needed to be changed on those? We're good, okay. All right. And that will circle us back around then to the action items here. We have the qualifying period of fees for municipal election.
Mayor and council, this request is for approval to set the qualifying fees and period for the 2025 municipal election for the seat of mayor, councilmember District 1, and councilmember at large. The qualifying fee for a candidate to run for mayor will be $1,080, and for the council seats will be $720. As a reminder, qualifying fees are 3% of the total gross salary of the preceding year. In addition, the qualifying period for candidates will be held Tuesday, August 19th through Thursday, August 21st from 8:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. here at City Hall.
Okay. Any questions from council on that? All right. Fee schedule amendment?
Mayor and council, this item has to do with an approval by the City Council on December 17th, 2024. The City Council approved an amendment to the Unified Development Ordinance, Section 320-34 of the Unified Development Ordinance. Purpose of the amendment was to improve communication among property owners when tree removal applications have been reviewed and approved for permitted removal. And the ordinance requires that a tree removal notification sign be placed on the property for 5 days prior to the removal. That amendment resulted in the addition of one of our signs, the green and white sign that indicates that the tree removal permit has been granted. That has been put in place. Staff has found that there is a need to further amend the ordinance in order to place a fee in order to maintain compliance with the notification part of the ordinance. So staff recommends tonight that the mayor and council consider and adopt a resolution that creates a fee to be applied when there is a failure to meet all or part of the notification requirements of this ordinance. So the details of the proposed fee are as follows. Staff recommends that in order to have the ability to enforce the ordinance and to deter violation of the ordinance, a fee shall be charged for violations pertaining to the tree removal notification element of the Unified Development Ordinance, Section 320-34B. The fee shall be charged for every tree included in the tree removal permit. The fee shall be charged to the owner of the property where the tree removal is taking place, and the fee shall be administered by the Planning and Development Department. The amount of the fee shall be $175. These are the proposed elements of the proposed fee schedule amendment. That is the end of the presentation.
Thank you, John. Any questions on this item?
You said it's $175 in total or per tree?
$175 per tree.
Per tree.
Any further questions, comments? Okay, we'll move on down then to the first zoning item, which was 3473 Claremont Road. Was there any questions from council on this item?
I actually do have a question for staff or the applicant. Wait for him to get back. John, presently there is in addition to the trash dumpster on that site, there is a waste oil barrel. Is that going to be moved and located within the dumpster enclosure as well? Or will that be separate?
I'm sorry, in my transit, I missed the case.
Taqueria Los Rios.
I don't know the answer to that question. Let me find out.
Okay, because right now they're sitting side by side in that side yard. So, thank you.
Any other questions on that item? All right, we'll move down to 2772 Northeast Expressway. Any questions on that item?
You know what, I don't have questions on that particular item, but I do have a question. I probably asked this before. I still am not clear what the answer is. From the time that their application for building the structures that we require for our waste disposal, how long does the applicant have to build the structure before they're back in violation of code?
6 months, I believe.
Write that down so I remember it for once.
Any other questions?
Which project are you referring to?
Any projects where code has found dumpsters in violation?
Oh, code violation. Oh, well, so it depends on what the code enforcement officer gives. Typically, it's 30 days. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, depending on the circumstances.
So 30 days, that's better than 6 months.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're thinking about building permits.
Happens when there's non-compliance.
So then there's a citation is made and court appearance is expected.
All right, thank you.
All right, that takes us down to 4789 Buford Highway. This is Napa. Any questions from council on that item?
The minor little housekeeping. So you're going to paint the gate green? Is that, or because you've shown two different?
Those are actually just examples. We were more so going to be painting it to match the building facade. So it's either going to be like the beige base color or it'd be that blue Napa color. I don't think yellow would look really good.
Right.
I like yellow. All right. The next item is the 5880 Peachtree Road. This is Jim Ellis. Questions or comments from council?
Actually, this is for the applicant. I do understand the question's going to be on possibly gussying up the exterior of that parking deck a little bit.
Stacy, could you or Steve come up?
Because it is rather industrial looking and
So she wants it, quote, gussied up.
gussied up.
Gussied up.
Yeah, nothing solid gold. Sorry. But I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of architectural elements that would just make it a little bit less of a behemoth and industrial looking.
Okay, we can work on that for sure.
And I am going to have you, between now and Tuesday, seriously consider putting a green roof on top of it. You don't have to put trees, but something that mitigates the heat island effect of a solid concrete roof. So.
Did agree to the coating that has.
Oh, I'd rather have living, breathing. Can be done, and it doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't have to, I'm pretty sure it will not require excess engineering.
Okay, we can look into that. Okay.
Succulents, which are going to survive perfectly well in rain, with no watering except for rain, proper drainage so it doesn't become a puddle, and it's quite attractive, and it reduces the heat effect. Even though, nobody's going to go up there and see it, it still does. And we'll let you put a big sign up that says we have a green roof.
Any other questions from council?
Yeah. I did have a question on the lighting. I know this is for the director. So I know you said there's some carryover from the last conditions, and was that the dark sky for the lighting?
I believe that there was. I'd have to check and see what the condition was, and I have them here from the last.
I know you have it in your suggested. I just didn't know if that was a carryover.
Number 7, from the past, to allow site lighting to be above the maximum allowable foot candle limit in vehicle display areas. At first look, it appears that there wasn't an emphasis on lighting in the first approval, but it's here now.
Okay.
Staff supports it.
The second condition is the subordinate to the primary structure. If we don't grant that, then the project's pretty much dead at this point, right?
Yeah, this is where, if you take a, categorical look at the criteria, staff, it's hard to say that there's a hardship there, but it is what it is because of the nature of the structure.
All right, any other questions? Steve, was there any, I know last time around back in 18 or 20, I know that there was you invited all the neighbors over to the dealership and had like an open house and showed them the project and went through it. Did that happen this time around?
That did not happen this time around because we were basically presenting the same thing.
Yeah.
And assumed most everyone was.
Always good, because there does seem to be some confusion tonight, and so I always recommend that when you're doing a project, try to get the neighbors out and show them, remind them, because we do have some new folks and that are not familiar with the old project. And just for clarification, I did want to say that the project last time, a version of the project last time was approved. There was some confusion on that.
Yeah, it was approved,
but it
almost as submitted, just minor nuance differences today versus then, and that's really has to do with the Shallowford Road realignment.
And because of the economy and COVID and everything, that didn't happen at the time, and that's kind of why you're back. But I do recommend always having an open house of some kind, just so that everybody's on the same page.
I do have one other question. We heard these complaints before about the noise and about the fumes, and I'm hearing the words constant all day long and things like that. Is there a way to monitor that noise for a certain period of time? I don't think that you should put in some huge surveillance system with, whatever, but I would like to know, I would like to have some proof of the...
Is the property manager, I know you're here, Stacy, but... Yeah.
And the intent is that with the parking structure enclosed and organized, that issue goes away, even if it is an issue today, or obviously it is an issue today, but that issue would go away.
Versus reality. The other question that I have, you guys, this parking deck is, and really the Cadillac dealership, you're not very far from Green Industrial, are you? The court back in there. Because, there are fumes from the furniture finishing places in there and from the coffee roaster in there that travel as well. So it would be quite interesting to see who's the culprit in the first place. I think we should probably find out.
Jimmy, just to follow up to your question about lighting. Lighting was discussed in 2018, and we had agreed. We actually raised the back wall, the northern wall, the top level wall of the parking deck. Typical is 42 inches. We raised it to 6 feet so that no one from Forest Court would see any of the vehicles. And we also agreed to keep all of the lighting on the top level below that 6-foot point and to be dark sky compliant so that there'd be no light bleed over the wall or up into the sky at night. So.
I think this may be just a clear up understanding, but when you guys order cars, you don't just order 5 or 6 of them. You are kind of required to order a certain number, and the number's high.
Manufacturer
We're told
gives
how
them,
many are
yeah,
coming, yes, sir.
they're told how many they get and how many they
And
have to sell.
quite often, car dealerships have to rent other space to park those cars. And they're not being driven in and out all day long, every day by prospective buyers. But you have no choice. You have to house them somewhere. And it seems that it would be a lot safer to house them close to your property, if not on your property. So that's the reason for the numbers, just FYI.
Yeah, it's not more cars, it's just reallocated. right,
Relocation.
To stop the cross-town traffic, for lack of a better term.
Well, I'm old and my memory's not that great, but I was on council in 2018 and I remember these same concerns.
Right.
I remember folks coming up to the microphone and telling us about searching for cars and using the clicker to look for them because they couldn't find them, and so the alarms were always going off. I remember the fumes being brought up. I remember I remember the test drive on Forest Court, Forest, whatever the name of the street is. I remember that being brought up as a concern because it is a dead end, and so they raced down, raced back up, and we were going to address that back then as well. And I remember the conversation that, I remember that if the deck was built, that we were going to do these things, but I also remember the conversation that we're going to go back and talk to the manager of the store and make sure that he addressed it with his employees. So I know people have changed and times have changed, but the complaints and the concerns are still the same. So whether the deck is built or not, I want us to take heed to those concerns and make sure that we address that with the property manager so that we are affecting the neighbors as least as we can and still do the business that we need to do. So, but thank you for that. All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right. We are down to Railway 3477. Any questions from council on this item?
I do have some.
Same.
What's that?
You do? It might be in this application, but I can't find it. And so I'm going to ask you, how many indoor seating, how much indoor seating are you going to have?
Most of the seating, to be honest, is outdoors than indoors, because indoors is very limited, especially if we're gonna put the kitchen and the walk-in cooler and everything, so. Yes, that's the majority.
So, and you're not going to cover the outdoor seating?
We wanted to originally, but like, when we met with the staff on multiple occasions, like, we didn't want to alter too much of the structure of the roof. We can down the line, if that's required, we would be willing to do so. We just didn't want to like too much impervious space. Like we didn't want to like ask for too many variances at this point. Like somebody told me, the less you ask, the better. So, but originally when we met with the architect, we wanted to, yes. I mean, that's just like, the architect just added just like for visual, but we don't have to have like the tables and chairs like on the sidewalk. We can just keep it on the patio, on the front patio that we have. That was just like, just an idea to have.
Does that give you a little bit more room for some landscaping and trees and stuff like that?
Yes. But we couldn't put like right on the center because of like the property next door, because they asked for some variances as well in the previous. So like if we to follow what it is, and because of the curb cut, we just couldn't meet that 100%. We're still gonna plant them, it's just not gonna be like that on center. Oh, no, not at all. Me neither. I mean, there is a planters too in front of it. I don't know if you can see it as well, so we can plant stuff in there as well. Yes, it's just because of the slope of the building, it was really hard to make like the patio, so we have to build something up in front of it. And that's the best way, like, no, it's one story. It's just, yeah. It's just like an attic in top, but there's
Like there's sort of a deck in the back, right?
oh, you're talking about the second building? Yes, no, the original home, like, is just one story and just an attic space. But we have to raise the roof a little bit to meet like 15 feet requirement. That was.
Yeah, so my first question is, what kind of food?
Food, we have a chef that we've been working with in 20 years. He worked in everything from Italian to, we have our restaurant is Mezcalitos, which is Mexican, but because you already have Mexican around the corner, we plan not to do that. So it's gonna be like Ukrainian, I'm Ukrainian, but it's American with like maybe Ukrainian flair influence.
Awesome. That had nothing to do with the project, but I was just curious. I am a big fan of having no parking. I'm the first person you ever hear say, I hate roads, I hate cars, I hate, no offense to the Ellis's back there. But I like a walkable community, so I love that. But there's some practicality that comes with this. Where is the staff going to park? Because we're already tight downtown, and if you have 12 people working, that's 12 spots. They're going to be taken up from customers. They're going to be paying to come to your
No,
restaurant.
totally. I mean, look, we spoke with Wesley, and he has connection to the building next door, and he said we can work out something out with them as well in regards to parking spaces, because right now I think it's like limited to like 4 hours or something, but we're in the works with like talking with them about it as well.
Fantastic. And the last thing I'll say is the building was built in 1974. You're not going to hurt anybody's soul if you rip it down completely. It's not a monument to any
Oh,
kind
it's
of
before
architecture.
1974.
What was that?
It was built before 1974.
Whenever it's built. I don't think
Oh.
anybody's going to cry if you took down the entire building, start from scratch. But that's just 2 cents. Has nothing to do with what's in front of us.
Okay.
Elmer?
The secondary building, what are you doing with that? I have concerns about a building just sitting there. Restaurant.
For now, it's just gonna be used as storage, like we have, because of parking variances, like we didn't wanna like to extend too far. So, I mean, it's a garage right now, so we're just gonna convert it to a storage space for meantime, until like we have more funds or meanwhile can get approval to convert it to something else eventually, like an outdoor bar. But yeah, for now, because of like the requirements for the parking spaces, we did not want to push it too far.
So John, educate me on this. What prevents them from building some type of roof or shade structure or something over their patio?
That would be feasible. They could build something over it.
Seems like it would make more sense, but that's just,
We do get rain.
yeah. If all your seating, no, it's not, I'm just saying,
Worried about you.
yeah, it's your business. If all your seating, if most of your seating is outdoor and very limited on the inside, and, I mean, it rains a lot, so.
No, we'd be more than happy to. Like I said, we just don't want to ask for more variances at this point. We thought we could just do it down the road, but if that's okay, then we'd be more than happy to. Thank you. Okay.
So all of their parking would be determined by the deck next door?
No, I'd like to speak to that. The deck, there's nothing established right now regarding the deck. It simply exists there, and Bexley offers public parking for anyone, but nothing's been established. Staff suggests that we go ahead and accept the record set of plans that have the 2 on-street parking spaces, but then that the applicant would go and seek and confirm and get 2 spaces via shared agreement elsewhere, somewhere else. It couldn't be at the Bexley because those spaces are already delineated and spoken for. That's a different agreement. It would have to be somewhere outside of the deck. Absolutely.
Can you refresh my memory, and if you don't remember, that's fine, but how many public spaces we required in Bexley's parking deck when we built that? Do you remember?
I don't know the number.
No, that was the ground floor, but I don't.
The ground floor, it's a little bit more. Yeah, and those spaces are Those spaces are delineated with signage by condition.
Okay,
Maybe 30,
maybe.
maybe. I think that's a push. I think it's upper 20s. Just picturing it in my head, I can't see it being more than that.
If the food's good enough, they'll walk, right? All right, all right. Any other questions? You have my vote on Ukrainian food, by the way. I do. All right. All right, that takes us down to the administrative decision. Was there any questions or comments from council on this item?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I have a question for not the applicant. Ma'am, if you can step up, please. I have a couple of questions.
Ms. Bell?
Yes.
In all of the documentation tied to this property, is there copies of former title deeds showing that it was two separate lots that have been presented?
I can get that information from the title company.
Okay, because I'm very familiar with the area. I live within an eighth of a mile of it.
Yes.
And I've been there for 20 years. That property has always been considered one contiguous lot, and DeKalb County tax records have always shown it that way, and only ever shown it with one parcel number. So the problem is that for effectively living history of that area, and from long before the area was annexed into the city of Chamblee, it's been considered a single lot. So that's why the subdivision question comes up. So if there is documentation showing that it's two separate titles, it was titled with separate plat numbers, that may have bearing.
Okay, then we will provide that.
I'm not guaranteeing, I'm saying it may. And as far as Wood Acres Road goes, that was never finished by DeKalb County.
And it's still considered a public road.
Public right-of-way, I believe.
And it's never been abandoned by DeKalb County.
No, and DeKalb County has been historically known to do some very odd things with real estate. The other house that was back there that's a site of a future park was given a title when it was a floodplain in 1980. So, unfortunately, holding the practices of the former DeKalb County Planning and Development Departments up as the example of what's happened may not have been the right thing.
Okay.
They may not have followed their own rules when things were done, is my point.
Yeah, and so we're saying, why are we being held hostage to that
Well,
in this process? Because it's a right-of-way, it hasn't been abandoned, and although it has not probably been maintained, it's still a matter of people can use it to go and come.
I'm sorry, can you explain that? Because I'm, again, familiar with the area. There's no vehicular traffic that's been on that road in a number of years, other than DeKalb County.
Yes.
Accessing their
and
own
so,
sewer easement.
What was that?
The only vehicular access on that road has been DeKalb County sewer easement vehicles for at least the last 5 years. I think it's more like 10 years. So you keep saying people are coming and going. I'm just not sure how you're determining that.
It has been a means of egress, I should say. It has not, what was that?
Well, a means of egress for one building site that was given use of it when the property was built in 1980. It's by the way it has been used by the public, it has not been publicly used other than by one property owner who was allowed to, who also happened to be the former DeKalb fire chief when he built the house.
Okay,
So-
but it's not private property either.
No, I'm not saying it's private property. You keep saying people using it for coming and going. By actual usage, I'm having trouble understanding what you mean.
I'm saying in the past, it may have been used that way. I'm not familiar, with the history of the property, but there is parts of it that have been paved and parts of it that have not.
Which parts have been paved?
Oh, well, I have photographs of of this area. And it was provided in our appeal. I'm sorry, I did not bring that with me, but
It's okay.
we'll go back to the title company, because from what I understand, this has always been two separate properties.
Okay, that would be interesting to see. Because according to the DeKalb Tax Assessor's Office, up until very recently, it was one tract with one parcel number. From the Woodacres Road house, the corner of Woodacres Road and Jordan Terrace to Claremont Terrace was one single parcel number. And it was that way for at least 20 years.
If you could try to get that and provide it to,
we will.
provide it to
We will.
staff. Any other comments or questions on this property?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that we have two factors to consider here, and only two factors. Was the decision made by the director arbitrary, or is it capricious? Can you tell me if it was arbitrary or capricious?
I can't answer that at this time.
There's only two factors we can consider.
I think it's also based on erroneous information, and so,
Okay.
is that right? Erroneous information?
Or erroneous material fact, error of material fact.
Okay.
So, I'm confused because
Yes. Okay. That's what we're saying, is that it's a public road. Okay. We will provide that information. So do we send that to?
To staff.
Okay.
Okay. All right, thank you. John?
I just wanted to state a correction typo in the staff memo for this case. I said that the building permit was received June 2024. It was started for review January 2024. It was received November 23, and it was started for review January 2023. January 2024. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, John. All right, that will take us down to public comments. The mayor is the presiding officer. All remarks shall be addressed to the city council as a body, not to individual members. Anyone wishing to speak shall come to the microphone, give their name and address to the city clerk. Limit remarks to 3 minutes unless further time is granted by council. Not speak a second time until everyone wishing to speak has spoken once, and no one can speak more than twice. And please do not speak unless you have the microphone and have been recognized. Is there anyone here wishing to address council this evening? Come on up. Welcome.
Good afternoon, council. My name is Cynthia Lazo. I'm representing my mom for my address is 870 Omaha Drive, Norcross, Georgia, 30093. And I'm representing under Taqueria Los Rayos Incorporation. We understood that we missed the first 10 minutes and we apologize for that. But basically responding to the question that you guys had, the grease trap is not the thing that you see on the site plan. that's where we dispose our oil. The grease trap is actually where the fence is at, the wooden fence away from the dumpster. There's a hole right, I think like 5 feet away from that. That's where our grease trap is at. So the oil container that we have over there wouldn't be moved. It'd stay there. The only thing that we applied for was to move the dumpster enclosure behind our drive-through sign.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And separate to that, we just wanted to state that we're able to comply with everything, like put it under the materials needed, the enclosure, and that we had tried 3 different methods, I believe, and we had sent in all the site plans, but we have been multiply denied, so we really don't know what else to do besides the final site plan that we had been approved on, and the one that we presented today, I think was presented the first 10 minutes. We understand that we also applied for a variance to cut down from 20 parking spaces to 18 because that dumpster will be behind the drive-through sign. Like I said, that's where we agreed we could put it other than the spaces that we had it before. So we're waiting to see if y'all will approve like the variance to cut down those parking spaces. We understand that our corner lot doesn't have a lot of space. It's only like a few square feet, so we wouldn't have space to add any other parking spaces to meet the requirements, and also the requirement of us moving the dumpster to a place where y'all can approve it. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mom's standing back there with a smile. She's a proud mom. Yeah, good job. All right, anyone else wishing to address council? Anyone? You can come on up.
Once again, 3981 Forest Court, Donna Wolf. I just want to invite the Ellis Corporation and those people involved in the project to 3981 Forest Court. I would like for them to see what we're going to see from inside the home. All these plans have been made from the deck forward back to Forest Court. I would like to have an open invitation for them to visit 3981 Forest Court and understand what our view is going to be.
Anyone else wishing to address council this evening? Anybody? All right, I believe we have executive session. All right, we have executive session, so we'll have to excuse ourselves, and we'll be back shortly.
Could I have a motion to enter executive
Mr.
session?
Mayor, I make a motion to enter into executive session, to discuss matters related to personnel, real estate, and litigation.
Second.
Thank you, Sharon. All in favor?
Unanimous.
what I was afraid of, and that's why I proposed the shared parking agreements. Because I was afraid that like people would, your patrons would come by and just park there and say, oh, I'll just watch it while I'm eating outside, and I'll just watch my car. And if somebody tries to tow me, I'll run across, which is going to be a fight between you and Azalea. So, I mean, sort of been around this rodeo long enough where I know how these things evolve. So, the shared parking agreement was an official agreement. You would go to Azalea and make a deal with them. Yeah, or somewhere else, and say, hey, here's a written agreement, and we have all the rules spelled out.
Okay, where would I get the agreement from? You guys?
Yeah, it's in the, we can show you where it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if I want to go talk to them,
But I'm guessing they have extra space.
yes, they have a lot of space. It's just a matter of us allocating and saying, hey, can we do this?
And like, think about all the people who work like second shift who don't come home until 11 or 12. After your business is over. That's the whole beauty of shared parking. So your restaurant people are parking at Azalea when some of those folks are.
So it can be done, right?
It can be done. We've got them. They're in place, and we put them in place in other projects too.
Okay, that's good to know because also for collecting the now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, let me work with you so I can get a copy.
Miss-
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to exit executive session.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to exit executive session. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And you're off again next week, Brian? Are you off on traveling again next week?